This is Dante Williams, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Felicidades, Canelo. ¿Pensaste que había ganado esta pelea?
Yo vine a pelear, no vine a correr. Yo vine a pelear. Si él quiere ir a un maratón, pues que se vaya a un maratón.
I came to fight. I didn't come to run here. If you wanted to go to a marathon, then go to a marathon.
Aquí no se gana con correr, se gana con pegar.
You don't win by running here. You win by hitting.
Did you feel as though his footwork was effective, however, as he was able to consistently out-jab you? Islandre, did you feel you won the fight?
¿Pensaste que ganaste la pelea, Islandi?
100%.
100%.
Gané mi pelea, 100%.
I did my fight, and 100% I won this fight.
You seemed to be able to control all of the action. Was it your feeling that you were in control of this fight?
Se parecía que estaba controlando toda la acción. ¿Tú pensaste que estaba controlando la acción?
Se parecía, no. Controlé todos los rounds, controlé todos los rounds fácilmente. Lo golpeé, lo hice fallar, lo hice lucir mal ante su público, que es lo más importante.
It didn't seem like it. I was controlling all the rounds, and more than anything, I made him look bad in front of his public, in front of his crowd.
There we go. There we go. What's going on, guys? AllTalkRadio.net, BoxingTalk.com, and welcome to the Dante's Boxing Nation Show. I am your host, Dante, and joining me today, we got a full house, guys. As you can see, I got my boys in here, the future champions of the world, Remesis Williams, Genesis Williams, two-time national champion right here. My son Genesis, my older son, he's, coming up. He just made his little return. So he's training right now, and I got my man Noran Radical in the building, my co-host.
Yep.
And on the phone, we got Ego's World, and we got AK Arab King. All right, so you guys can tune in and check out their channels on YouTube. They have some of the best channels on YouTube. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. We got a whole lot to talk about, don't we, guys?
Uh-oh.
A whole lot to talk about. So let's go. We're going to jump right into it, man. The past fight this past weekend, Lara versus Canelo, the controversy. That's probably the biggest word. Mr. Levy Martinez from New Mexico. And we're going to get into it, man. We're going to get into it. Let's go ahead and get it started in the studio. All right, Nora, man, what did you think of the fight? We're going to play devil's advocate. We're going to talk about what everyone is saying about this fight. What did you think of this fight?
What's a devil's advocate? What is that? Okay. I'm going to tell you what I saw in the fight. I saw one guy who was, I'm going to keep it real simple. I saw one guy that was more effective in what he was doing than the other guy. And the guy who I saw that was more effective was Lara. He was more effective with his jab, with his, consistent with his 1-2 combinations, but they were landing clean. Landing clean throughout the fight, and to me, that's what wins a fight. Obviously, he's got a lot of criticism, to be kind, to say the least. He got a lot of criticism about the quote-unquote running. But the thing is, obviously there's a thing called cutting off the ring. It's the other guy, it's the opponent's obligation to stop him from running. Exactly, cut off the ring. That is what would be considered effective aggression. Mm-hmm. If he is stopping, if he is impeding the motion, if the other guy is moving or running or whatever you want to label it as, if the other guy is in motion and the opponent can't effectively neutralize it, then it's not self-explanatory. It's not effective aggression. So Lara, if listen, it's not like Lara went out there and put on a spectacular performance.
Yeah.
Both guys were a little bit lackluster. Both guys left a lot to be desired. But Lara was more effective. Canelo went to the body. That counts as well. But a punch to the face is more impressive and more effective. I mean, if I have a iron jaw, and or if I have a steel jaw, and you got a iron rib cage, and I punch you in the face, and you punch me in the body, and neither one, does any damage, the punch in the face is going to look more impressive. You know what I mean? That's what's going to score. I mean, you're just keeping it basic. So, like I said, man, to me, Lara did more than Canelo. Neither one did a whole lot, but Lara did more, and I had him winning the fight on points.
I hear you. Now, Ego, what they're saying, though, and this is what I mean when I say devil's advocate, what a lot of people are trying to say is Canelo, he was landing all the body shots, and Lara was doing all the running, even though my man Norin explained that. But what do you say about that, Ego? I mean, who did you think won this fight?
Well, first of all, I want to say it's unfortunate in boxing that we always have to deal with things that put a black eye on the sport. And I personally had Lara winning. I think the margin became slimmer because there were some rounds in the middle where I think Lara kind of let off the gas. And if you look at fights like a very stylistic, similar performance with Timothy Bradley versus Ruslan Provodnikov, Timothy Bradley owned those middle rounds. So even though he was hurt in the first round, the second round, the 12th round, I think he put his stamp on those middle rounds. So when he won, it wasn't a big surprise to me. I think Lara, he should have had a little bit more with his offense in some of those middle rounds. I think maybe round 8, he was just like dormant. But I also agree with, both fighters, they tried their best. I had Lara winning. I don't agree with the whole, he's a runner. I mean, you knew who you signed up to fight. You know his style of box. You know he's from Cuba. You know his background. You should be watching tapes. They show you on All Access watching tapes. So you should study your subject and prepare for that. If I worked at JCPenney's, my manager is going to expect me to help any customer. They're not going to be like, I can't be like, I don't help people if they bring their kids. I only can service customers if it's just them by themselves. So as a boxer, it is your job, it is your duty to figure out whatever style, whatever puzzle is being presented to you. So if he's moving a lot, cut off the ring. There's some guys that do that really good. Brandon Rios, Ruslan Provodnikov. So Canelo needs to work on that if he knew what he was signing up for. That's my pick. But I had Lara winning.
Absolutely. AK, what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, well, I agree with Ego. He pointed out that Canelo, he knew what he was up against. He was up a mover. And he knew that before the fight. And he said, that he's going to pressure, that pressure is a key. But I want to point out 3 things. First of all, for the people who say if Lara didn't run, he would have had won the fight. If you're talking about ring generalship, you got to give that to Lara. The reason why, there's no such thing as, a judge is going to give it to the style he likes. No, you got to give it to the person who, the fighter who having effect pressure or the effective boxer. On Saturday night, Canelo Alvarez, he wasn't cutting off the ring as good. Every time he had Lara cornered, Lara will easily escape. So that's not effective pressure. Lara was the effective boxer because he escaped every time in the corners, and he outboxed Canelo. And if you're talking about ring generalship, you got to give that to Lara right there. And the second thing, the body shots. They say, Canelo landed great body shots. But like Norin pointed out, in one round, if you land 10 punches to the body on me, and I land 10 punches upstairs on you, I'll win the round because the body shots don't win you fights. The head shots count more. And they say Canelo landed more power shots. If you check the stats, Lara landed more power shots. And not just that, like I said, the head shots count more than body shots. And another thing, Canelo Alvarez before the fight, he said the key to victory is the jab. And he got out-jabbed. He only landed like 5% of his jabs, while Lara landed, I think, like 22%. And for a judge, some judges score jabs as body shots. So if Lara landed more power shots, he landed more jabs. He was the better effective boxer because Canelo wasn't being effective with his pressure. Then he won the fight clearly in my book. I gave it 8 rounds to 4. And if you give Canelo 5 rounds, I could see that too. You know, it was a close fight. But, in my eyes, the clear winner was Islam Lara.
Yeah, and not only that, AK, but when you talk about body shots, a lot of times we can't even see exactly which body shots are landing unless someone has a terrible defense and you just see them shots digging right into the liver or whatever, right?
Exactly.
But a lot of them body shots were actually blocked. You got to go in a fight like this. To me, it's actually easy to score because it's not a lot of action. So you go off of the person who has his head getting knocked back the most, right? How many times did we see Lara getting his head knocked back? Not too often. Not too often, right? I think like the only clean shot, I could,
uppercut.
Yeah, the uppercut. I could tell you right now, the uppercut and maybe like 1 or 2 right hands was the only shots that I seen Lara land in this whole fight.
Canelo.
Canelo. But my whole thing, man, is I hate the double standards that exist in the sport right now. It's amazing how people can cry and go crazy to call and giving people death threats over Manny Pacquiao and Tim Bradley. They calling this man's family, calling his wife, giving him death threats or sending death threats to his house because they were so upset with the decision. But you know the articles that are coming out now you got people saying no one should look at this fight as a bad decision. The right man won, right? But any other close decision where the fighter that they wanted to win loses, then it's the biggest robbery of all time. I mean, is that crazy knowing or what?
Reprehensible. Absolutely reprehensible. Listen, just to go back over it, like we should all know it's the 4 components to judging a fight. What you got: clean punching, clean shots landed, clean, like you said, body shots. Majority of them were blocked. A lot of them were blocked. Ring generalship, who's controlling the pace and the rhythm of the fight. Canelo didn't do either or neither. He didn't control the rhythm or the pace of the fight. Effective aggression. Again, effect. What do we mean by effective? What does effective mean? It means to effect something. It means to create change or alter the course of something. Basically, to impose your will. Canelo was unable to impose his will in this fight. He was, he looked lost. He was punching air, and then we got defense. I'm sorry, in all 4 categories, again, it wasn't, a stellar performance by Lara, but in all 4 categories, I give Lara the check, so, the double standards, unfortunately, I become desensitized to it, so it don't eat me up as much as it do you, D, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of, make mockery out of it, you know what I mean? Because it's lampoonish.
Comical.
Exactly, thank you, bro. But,
and
go ahead.
Go ahead, AK.
And you know what's funny? Canelo Alvarez himself, he said that you don't want to fight by running. You win it by landing punches. Well, first of all, like I said, Lara landed more punches than you, Canelo. Mm-hmm. And not just that, they also, you got Canelo fans saying, oh, stop making excuses for Lara. He lost the fight. He was running too much, blah, blah, blah. And it's like this. What is the definition of an excuse? That's when you say, oh, he didn't train right. Oh, he ran too much. That's why he won the fight. These are excuses. Not when a dog get robbed, we point that out. That's not no excuse. And you don't hear Lara say, or his fans say, oh, well, Canelo was pressuring too much. If he didn't pressure so much, and if he gave Lara room to punch, Lara would have had won the fight. You don't hear no Lara fans say that, or Lara himself saying that, but you constantly keep hearing, oh, well, Lara moved, he ran too much, that's why he lost the fight. You know what I'm saying, that shit when Oscar got robbed by Trinidad, and he wasn't even throwing punches when he was moving.
Thank you.
I just got to add this. I got to add something real quick. I was just going to say, I knew this was going to be a problem after I watched the fight. I was like, oh, shit, we're going to the scorecards. I think it's all dependent on what you like. Just pure personal preference. We all know 117, 111 is a BS scorecard. He needs to be suspended or get rid of him. We don't need that in boxing. But me personally, when I'm scoring a fight, it's a 3-minute round. I look at what's happening for the duration. I think a lot of times people, they hone in because, let's be honest, Canelo was destroying Lara's body in spots. but I scored the entire round in its entirety. So if someone's landing more effective shots for 3 minutes or 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and then someone is shining for like 15, 30 seconds in little spots and spurts, then that's one thing. And I wouldn't score the round for that person unless what they did was so destructive where, you know what I mean, people will sleep on the fact that Canelo landed all these body shots, but at the same time, Lara must have been in great conditioning because he was taking them.
Exactly.
And he wasn't really visibly hurt, like to the point where it looked like he was in trouble about to get knocked out. So you can't really, even though it looked like it hurt, you can't really say, oh, Canelo definitely won that round if he was being outworked. It's similar to Brian Vera versus Chavez Jr. You got to score the round based on the entirety. Pacquiao versus Bradley, you can't take rests and stuff like that. My only complaint, my gripe with Lara was I thought when he had the fight kind of under control, he let Canelo come on and outshine him in certain spots and did what was crowd-pleasing. But at the end of the day, if you compare it to like even basketball, there was a game where Jordan got crossed over by Allen Iverson, and everyone's like, ooh, Allen Iverson crossed him over. But the Bulls still won that game. You know what I'm saying? So you got to look at it in its entirety. You can't just look at one aspect of it and throw out everything else.
No doubt. And another thing is, I noticed, and I think it may have had something to do with Lara being cut. I think when he got cut, you could see the first thing he did is he rubbed his eye, and I think it took him a couple rounds to get over that. You know, because as soon as he got cut, he slowed down, and then later on he picked it back up. Around 9, 10, 11, or especially 10 and 11, those were clear-cut Lara rounds. So I think that might have slowed him down, him being cut like that against a power puncher. Another analogy I wanted to make is when people talk about not really liking his style, I agree. It wasn't the best style. He damn sure didn't look like Guillermo Rigo against Nonito Donaire, because I'm going to tell you right now, if Rigo was in that position, he would have knocked out Canelo. I can tell you right now. But Lara didn't look as good as like a Rigo or something like that. But I will say it's like this. It's like football. It's like basically complaining because one football team, they keep passing the ball, making touchdowns instead of running the ball. You know? I mean, the bottom line is a touchdown, right? Exactly. You'll never hear any type of criticism because of how they're playing the game. You either win by 3 points or you win by 35 points in football. It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is the name of the game is to hit and not be hit.
Exactly.
And Canelo knows this, and he's a damn hypocrite. He knows that he's a hypocrite because right before the Angulo fight, what did Canelo say? He said movement is going to be the key to winning this fight. He didn't say, I'm going to go in there and show my Mexican warrior blood, and we're going to go toe-to-toe, and I'm going to show people. I've been waiting for this type of fight. He didn't say that. The first thing he said is movement will be key. And like I said in my video previously, you guys will see him moving when he's in the ring with a bigger guy. Canelo understands right now he's fighting against guys that he's stronger than. That's the reason why he stays at 154, so he can have this size advantage. But when he starts fighting guys that have the same type of power and aggression and natural strength that he has, I guarantee you're going to see him moving, and then he's going to be telling people, oh, man, I just put on a boxing clinic is what I did. I was floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. So he's going to be talking like that later on. So that's pretty much how I see it, man. Anybody else got anything?
Man, and just to
Go ahead. No, I was just saying.
Well, I was just going to say this, just to add on to what you were saying. Not to switch subjects or anything, but Mayweather, Lara, just different fighters who use lateral movement, which is something in boxing. They get called chickens and runners and all kinds of stuff like that. And one, who is in their right mind is going to go and play into their opponent's strength. So if you're a good inside fighter, Canelo's inside game is vicious. So why are you going to stand in pocket and just trade until you get knocked out or somebody gets knocked down or something? It doesn't make any sense. Lateral movement is a part of the game, and you have to find a way to deal with that finesse and deal with the different styles of boxing. And I think people are ridiculous with these claims like, oh, he ran like Ruben Guerrero after the Mayweather fight. He's a runner, he's dunking. Huh? Like, what did you, like, everyone calls Floyd Mayweather a runner, whatever the situation is. You watch tapes of Floyd Mayweather. We have 18 years of footage on this dude, and you thought he wasn't going to incorporate any lateral movement. Same thing with Canelo post-fight. He's saying, oh, Lara ran. You called him a runner before the fight, so why is your preparation not consisting of something to combat that, like cutting off the ring, establishing the jab to throw off his rhythm? You know what I mean? You know what you're getting into when you sign up. Personally, this is just my opinion. I think Canelo needs a new trainer. I think he's with the people he's with because he's been with them for a while, and he has that loyalty. And he's like, oh, I've been with Chepo and stuff. I think he needs a new corner, to be honest.
So,
no doubt about it. You said you was about to say something?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay.
And another thing, you know, in my opinion, that wasn't the best Lara performance. You know, I feel like he made a huge mistake because he should have went to the body and kept going to the body throughout the whole fight because Canelo has got fatigue later on, and also he should have pushed Canelo back at some points. You know, especially when the fight started, he could have started backing Canelo up, but that was a mistake he made too. And also, he let Canelo fight at his own pace. You know, like I said, if he put them body work in early, he could have send different results. Lara probably could have dominated, but he made a huge mistake by giving Canelo confidence and letting him, pressure him a lot. When he could have started backing Canelo up at the beginning of a fight, and he should have, like I said, throw a lot of body shots.
But one of the things about
I will say this about Canelo too, real quick. I thought he looked kind of weight drained at the weigh-in and the day before. I was impressed with his stamina because usually in other fights I seen Canelo, it looked like he was fighting in spurts and having real fatigue issues. But his stamina seemed pretty consistent than other fights, as opposed to other fights.
And one of the things about
and that's because. To be honest with you, he didn't even throw that many punches, So, and I was actually surprised because I thought that Canelo looked drained too.
And to go back to what you said originally, AK, or previously, one of Lara's deficiencies is he's never been a very strong inside fighter. He doesn't have a strong inside game.
True.
So this is why he utilizes the lateral movement. You know what I mean? And like I said, for me, it just all boils down to effective. Who was more effective. And Lara was more effective in the fight. But let me interject this as well. And this kind of plays a little bit of a part also, kind of like psychologically, especially with the decafs, because there was this perception, even though we know that there was no title on the line, there was still this perception that, you got to go out and take it from the champion. But like I said, we know there was no title on the line, but there is still this perception because of the popularity of Canelo that, Lara being the B side, he had to go in there and, really take it to Canelo. Whereas us, not being decafs, not being the casual fans, guys who really study the sport, we're just looking at it as two equally matched competitors. And we're just seeing who's going to go in there and who's going to be able to implement and impose their style most effectively. So what I'm saying is, put it like this: if Maidana, let's say Maidana Mayweather won, if Maidana would have knocked Floyd out, most people would have been saying they would have came out the woodworks and say, "Oh, we told you Mayweather's garbage. Mayweather's ain't this. Mayweather ain't shit. He got knocked out by a nobody." But we, on the other hand, we know Maidana's pedigree. You know what I mean? We know what Maidana is capable of. So even though we still would have been shocked, I mean, we would still give the guy credit, whereas everybody else would have taken the opportunity to discredit Mayweather. So what I'm saying by saying that is that perception based on popularity had something to do with it as well, or at least it has something to do in what we're seeing now with everybody saying, "Oh, he's a runner," because there's this perception that Lara had to go in there and really take it from Canelo, like the old saying goes, you got to take the belt from the champion. And like I said, based off popularity, people are kind of caught in that misconception or misperception.
We already know, Norin. We already know
for sure
that if Canelo would have did exactly what Lara did on some vice versa shit, that it would be no problem. This would be the biggest robbery of all time if Canelo was Lara right now and Lara got the decision and Lara only landed 24 headshots in 12 rounds.
Absolutely.
We know what time it is, right? Remy, let me ask you this. You a boxer. If you got a fighter moving around the ring, what would you do?
I would cut them off.
You would cut them off. 12-year-old kid know that.
How
come Canelo don't know how to do that?
Radio debut.
Yeah. How come Canelo didn't know how to do that? Angulo did it. Carlos Molina did it, but Canelo couldn't do it. Right?
Canelo said, "I was born ready."
He was born ready, all right.
He should have been born ready for a game plan for that.
Yeah, he should have been ready. Yeah,
born to cut off the ring.
Yeah, no, he was born to style his hair. That's what he was born to do. But you know. And what? Just real quick before we leave this subject, unless y'all want to talk more about it, Ego, you was talking about he looked drained at the weight, and that goes back to what I was saying. The reason why Canelo looks so drained is because that's not his natural weight. That's the reason why he looks so sucked up. I mean, if you look at Lara looks the exact same way he looked 2 months before the fight. Canelo, he looked totally different when he gets, when he makes it to the weigh-in, because that is not his natural weight. He's trying to stay at this weight so he can maintain his power and his size advantage over smaller fighters. He is naturally a middleweight now. The boy is growing, and he's growing into being a middleweight. But he's in a bad situation because he knows once he moves up to middleweight, he ain't going to be able to deal with them guys, which is probably our next subject, is how does he deal with the middleweights, right?
Yeah, well, you got Canelo, man. He complains about runners, right? He says Lara run too much. He's there to fight. And he keeps fighting at catchweight, like, his last 2 fights, he fought at 155. So, if you complain about runners, why you move up a weight that you should be fighting at, which is 160, and fight somebody who's going to go toe-to-toe with you, Golovkin, and show us, the Mexican warrior you are. But he ain't going to do that.
He ain't going to do that. But speaking of that, let me get all of you guys' opinion on this. Now, Oscar De La Hoya, he's saying potential opponents for Canelo next would either be James Kirkland or Gennady Golovkin. Do you believe that, Norrin?
Unfortunately, I believe the Kirkland, which is a fight I definitely would not want to see.
Absolutely.
Golovkin, I would imagine that would mean that he's going to be moving up to 160. Okay, if he's going to fight Golovkin, and that's something I would love to see. I would love to see Canelo go up and challenge himself. I definitely think Golovkin's going to win. I know I said that before, so that ain't no surprise. But that's something I would love to see. Now, do I believe it? I don't.
No,
I don't. I don't.
What do you think, Ego?
It needs to happen because they're trying to milk us and have 3 pay-per-views with just Canelo, in the same year. So if he's gonna fight someone, I would like to see a fight with Kirkland or Triple G. I don't want to see him fight somebody untested or somebody. I want to see if we're gonna be charged another pay-per-view, $75 a pop for HD. Then I want to see him in a fight with somebody who's credible, somebody like a Demetrius Andrade, James Kirkland. I would love that. Triple G, I would love that. Just someone we're gonna see who's who at 154, or if he's moving up to 160. So whatever it is, I want a good stern test if we're gonna be paying pay-per-view.
Yeah, before AK gives his, I'm gonna say this to Ego. The reason I don't want to see the Kirkland fight is what has Kirkland done lately?
Yeah,
I think that's a real, I think that, it's like, Kirkland, we know we got chin problems. You know what I mean? I would much rather see, like I said, a Demetrius Andrade. To me, that's a logical progression, from, a Mayweather to Angulo. Of course, you have to go to Angulo after Floyd. But then, from Angulo to Lara, hey, fight the top guy at 154 instead of, no disrespect to Kirkland, but instead of digging up Kirkland, fight a guy who's active, who's currently making noise. You know what I mean? That's why I wouldn't want to see the Kirkland fight. Not saying that not saying that it doesn't have the potential to be an exciting fight, but like I said, I want to see the guy challenge himself.
For me, I think for me, it's the fan in me, knowing some of the wars that Kirkland's been in. I would want to see it, but I see your point where you're coming from. He's been inactive with 50 Cent and SMS promotion, so that makes a ton of sense. I personally would want to see it, but it is going to be like Sergio Martinez versus Cotto, where we didn't know what version of Sergio was going to show up, and Kirkland's pretty inactive, so we don't know what version of him. Is it going to be the Ishida Kirkland, or is it going to be the Glenn Tapia Kirkland? So I guess we'd have to find out on fight night.
You know, really, anybody at any top fighter at 154 would be interesting, like the Charlos, like Demetrius Andre, and I don't think I heard about Cotto versus Canelo and Kirkland versus Canelo, but I haven't heard about Golovkin. But I truly don't think he wants any part of Golovkin at this point. But to be honest with you, as far as the Kirkland fight, this is the thing about Kirkland. If he could have take Canelo power, which we don't know, but if he can, then I just don't see it. It's not a knockout, but I see where you're coming from, Lauren. But like I said, I think if Kirkland survived the early rounds and he shows that he can take Canelo power, he's gonna test Canelo later on with all the body shots and that pressure. He's not gonna let Canelo fight at his own pace. But, yeah, is he going to be able to get out the early rounds? That's the question. That's the big question.
Hey, we
definitely don't have to worry about running if Kirkland and Canelo is finalized.
No, that won't be no problem.
Running, and Kirkland ain't going nowhere.
True indeed.
Yeah. And that'd be a great fight. But, Ego, I want to ask you a question. Have you sued HBO yet?
Nah, man.
I was going to ask you about that too, Ego.
What do you say about HBO?
Hey, share that story with us, Ego. What happened with the photos and everything?
So basically, I follow me on Instagram at Boxing Ego. I do a lot of memes, just funny pictures, and just boxing news and things like that. I have a segment on that where I call Ego Quotables. I just take a picture, doll it up, do the Photoshop thing, and put a quote that I like leading up to the fight. And I did one for Cotto Martinez, and all of a sudden I look, and then I see, this is months later. I did it, way before, and then I see HBO, they have virtually the same picture of Cotto, in a similar pose with the same quote, and then they have one for Sergio Martinez, and I'm like, man, I've been doing this. Where does that come from? So, spies in the social media, somebody not doing their job, and they just, that's a good idea. We have a bigger following, and kind of run with it. But, yeah, they took a couple little designs and stuff, and it was eerily similar. I had one with when the day they announced Sergio Martinez versus Cotto, I made one, and I put the flags behind each fighter. I put a Puerto Rican flag for Cotto and an Argentina flag for Sergio Martinez, and I did that the day it happened, and then all of a sudden HBO came out with one, and I see a ton of people who have very similar designs, you know what I'm saying? So
but it wasn't very similar. It was identical, the one that you had, though. It was identical.
Yeah, on my page, I have a side-by-side, you know what I mean? And I called them out, but it is what it is.
Cut the check.
Yeah, so we know that they watching us. We know the Twitters, the YouTubes, and all these social medias. They turning on saying, let me see what Dante's Boxing Nation Ego and AK talking about.
No doubt.
Since we're on the radio, I got another story that just happened yesterday. So hot off the presses.
Go ahead.
Yesterday, I know Mauricio Herrera. That's my dude. I've interviewed him before.
Yeah.
And I think he beat Danny Garcia, in my personal opinion. I thought Mauricio Herrera should have won, and he didn't get it. I made a meme, a little joke, where it was a classroom setting and it had Danny Garcia in the student chair, and Mauricio Herrera, after his fight this weekend with Perez, he had a cap and gown. So made a little picture, and I sent it to him. So Mauricio Herrera posted it on his Instagram. And then, 20 minutes after Mauricio Herrera did it, someone must have tagged Danny Garcia or sent it to him. Danny Garcia, he posted a picture of him laughing, and it says, me laughing anytime someone tells me I need to rematch Mauricio Herrera or Lucas Matisse. Challengers don't get rematches. I was the champion. And that's what he put. And he said he's going to be 29-0 in the caption. So I thought that was funny. Obviously, he's seen the meme that I did and on Mauricio Herrera's page. I don't respect that attitude as a lineal champion.
Yeah, and you got him to respond in a really dumb way But Danny Garcia is basically saying, if you think I'm going to give y'all a rematch, hell no, I ain't giving y'all no rematch. Ha ha. You know what I mean? But you the one looking like a damn fool, though, because we seeing what Floyd Mayweather is doing.
Man.
We seeing what Floyd is doing with Maidana. Yeah, I could imagine
they were tearing him up in the comments. They were tearing him up. And it's even worse that you're fighting Rod Salka, which is even worse. When they first announced that fight, I thought it was like a new vodka, alcohol, or something. I didn't even know who this dude was. I thought it was like a mouthwash or something. I didn't know what no Rod Salka was.
Rod,
and it's funny because Danny Garcia is saying that he's going to push himself to prove himself. And I'm like, you fighting a lightweight that's not even ranked on the top 75, and you saying you're going to push yourself?
Yeah.
Push yourself a lot, man. Party all night and go knock him out.
Excellent point. He said he was going to push himself for this fight. I mean, and you guys
may need to. Who knows?
I mean,
hopefully not.
This could be Tyson, Buster Douglas in Tokyo for all we know. I mean, we
3 knockouts, so they don't have.
Yeah, I mean,
I doubt. Yeah, Buster Douglas. His moms had passed a month before Tyson. Tyson didn't have like cold compresses, and they weren't prepared for Tyson to have swelling. So I think that's a whole different ballgame than Rod Salka. I just don't see how Duke can win.
No, you're right. And not only that, but Lightning saw Rod Salka. He only has 3 knockouts. So and this ain't in the heavyweight division. So yeah, that most likely ain't happening. You know.
Hey, listen. I just want to.
And to his credit, he got a good chin.
Yeah, he got a good chin. Go ahead, Norm.
Hey, and not to beat a dead horse. But I just going back to this Kirkland Canelo.
Yeah.
Like I think Ego said Ibihiro Ishida. Hey, it could have been a fluke. You know what I mean? But hey, you know, Kirkland is not a defensive fighter. I don't know. Like I said, it's just better fights at junior middleweight. Like I said, Charlo.
Way better fights.
Charlo's Demetrius Andrade. Take on the guys that are doing, you know, making real noise in the division. That's just how I see it.
And let me just say this real quick about Kirkland as well. The undefeated Kirkland, before he went to jail, I think he beats Canelo easy. I think he beats Canelo easy. Matter of fact, while I'm talking about that, I might as well just go ahead and throw all this out. I think undefeated Angulo beats Canelo. And we already know undefeated Shane Mosley, or even, you know, prior to Margarito fights, I think he would have beat Canelo as well. The thing with Canelo, this is definitely a step down in competition if he fights him. To me, it's almost like the Danny Garcia situation, where they're looking at things like, you know what, we may have bit off more than we could chew. Let's go ahead and start back over and start fighting soft competition. Another thing it probably means is this is probably a setup for the Cotto fight too, though. You know, this is probably a soft touch because Cotto said he doesn't want to fight in November, so instead he wants to fight in December. They can't get Cotto next, which, I don't know, it seemed like they would be able to negotiate that, but if they can't get him next, they're trying to get him in May, Cinco de Mayo, right? Trying to knock off Floyd. Well, Floyd already has that, but they'll fight sometime around that time. But I truly believe that Canelo wants an easy touch so he can build up to the Cotto fight. What do you guys think about that, Ego?
Oh, I mean, again, I have to disagree with you on that. I agree with you in the sense of there's other guys who have been looking better in recent performances and far more active. The Andrades, the Charlos, but the Charlos haven't really been tested. Not saying they're not skilled, but they haven't really been tested against credible names. So I still like the James Kirkland fight because stylistically, I want to see how Canelo handles somebody who, if he gets past, like AK said, if he gets past those early rounds, if he weathers that storm, someone who's going to bring that relentless dig down, and you're going to have to muster up the energy to keep me off of you type of fight. And I want to see how he does that because Angulo, I thought, could be that fight, but for whatever reason, Angulo had a dumb game plan and was surprised by Canelo's onslaught. He didn't let his hands go, and then he was already too deep in the hole to the point where he was like gun shy. So I think Kirkland, if it's the Kirkland that fought Tapia, could pose those problems. But again, it's kind of like Sergio Martinez Cotto. It's a big if. What Kirkland is going to show up? How hungry is he going to be? So I see where you guys are coming from on that stance because it's a real big gamble because SMS promotion fighters in general, like Gamboas and Kirklands and Durrells, they're not really the most active people in the game. So You don't know what his weight's like. You don't know if he's training. You know what I'm saying? Drinking. You don't really know. I don't know. So.
And Kirkland is a flat-footed fighter. He's not fast. I mean, Canelo will outbox him, and I don't see him taking those shots. Excuse me. And that's pretty much going to be the sum of the fight.
No.
Go ahead. What's up, bro?
Yeah, no. See, this is the thing about Kirkland.
Mm-hmm.
See, only thing that worries me a lot is that Asian fighter, he didn't have a lot of power and he managed to knock him out.
Mm.
But I also heard that Kirkland, he wasn't preparing right for that fight.
This is true.
It is what it is, but if the thing about Kirkland, if he could survive the early rounds and land body shots and make Canelo fight more than he likes, it's going to be interesting in the later rounds. But like I said, that's if he survived the early rounds, then he could take Canelo power. And Kirkland defense hasn't been looking that great, so I could see both sides of the table. But I don't mind if it happens, and if it doesn't happen, I won't cry about it.
There you go.
Well, let me say this as well, Ego. I partially agree with you that who knows, we can see Kirkland versus Angulo again, where
that would be great.
Kirkland looked like he was out in the first round. Next thing you know, he came back. The question, just like Noren is saying, and we all kind of saying, the big question in this fight is Kirkland's chin. That's the biggest question. If he can take some punches, because if he can take some punches or maybe get hurt and then get up like he did in the Angulo fight, then Canelo might be in trouble in this fight. But no doubt about it, just like Manny Pacquiao is picking Chris Algieri, which I was about to talk about that next, this is kind of the same thing with Canelo picking Kirkland. It's obviously it was the easiest pick, at least that's the perception from Team Canelo, right? But at the same time, we don't know what might happen because you go in there and you try to pick the easiest opponent. Another comparison is when Abner Mares, he avoided Guillermo Rigo to fight Johnny Gonzalez. We've seen what happened in those situations too. So sometimes you pick the easiest opponent, and that dude becomes your toughest opponent.
Yeah, my thing with Canelo is
Mauricio Herrera.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my thing with Canelo is
he lost to Herrera.
Yep.
Canelo is trying to outbox slick boxers, Mayweather and Lara, and he's unsuccessful in that. A guy like Kirkland, he'll be able to outbox him. But well, like I said, we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. So the new news that just came out is Pacquiao versus Algieri is being finalized as we speak, and I thought it was funny because the headline reads Manny Pacquiao likes it. So I want to ask you guys, Noren, why do you think Manny Pacquiao likes this fight?
Oh, let me count the ways. Y'all want to help me out? I mean, why does he like? He's gonna look. He's supposed to look like his old self against a guy like Algieri.
Supposed to.
Exactly. So I can understand his elation. With the turn of events.
Yeah. Is that how you guys see it, Ego and AK?
Well,
go ahead.
In my opinion.
Go ahead, AK.
Oh, in my opinion, I don't know if he likes it because that's not the right fight. First of all, some people think he's cherry picking, and they got the right to. Also, that guy's too tall, man. He has too much reach, and he complains about movers, and now he's fighting a mover. So wait, what happened? What's gonna happen right now? He's gonna be crying about, he's running. He's running.
Oh my God.
I don't know why he's fighting Algieri for. When he got a lot of great fights that could happen at 147.
Absolutely.
But where is the fight getting made at 140 or at 147?
What I heard is they're talking about trying to get.
144.
They talking about a catchweight, 144.
God.
And I heard this was just to take Algieri out of his own comfort zone.
Wow.
So go ahead, Ego. What's your thoughts on that?
Man, I don't like the fight, to be honest. I just, yes, Pacquiao struggles with pure boxers. Yes, I agree to that. But this guy doesn't. I like Chris Algieri, and I thought he was very valiant in his performance versus Ruslan Provodnikov. But I think nowadays boxing is kind of like WWE in the sense of, you know what I mean, you can have a Rey Mysterio versus The Undertaker, someone who's 10 times bigger than him or whatever. Pacquiao's not the biggest dude, but at the same time, people get rushed. I think Chris Algieri, we're one fight removed from not many people knowing who Chris Algieri even was. Exactly. You know what I mean? A lot of people, there was no one in the YouTube boxing community, not too many people really just screaming Chris Algieri's name. He had one fight with Ruslan Provodnikov, a guy who some don't consider to be, you know what I mean, more than like a C or B class fighter, and now he's getting the Pacquiao shot. So I'm not hating on him for getting his money. That's a good opportunity for him. I just don't, I mean, I don't think it does much for Pacquiao's legacy to fight yet another guy who's coming up from 140 to a catchweight. You know what I mean? How many fights was there a catchweight? Timothy Bradley fought at welterweight one time and went back down. He fought a Bregu, went back down to 140, and then Pacquiao brought him back up. Marquez in the third fight jumped 2 weight classes to fight Pacquiao. You have De La Hoya, who late in his career dropped down and looked pretty drained. Cotto was a catchweight. It's like Brandon Rios came up from 140. I don't like that, and I don't think it gives you that much credit. And some people compare, like, oh, Mayweather did it with Canelo. But at the same time, it's an established pattern.
He sounds just like a decaf.
Yeah. Like, I honestly feel like if Victor Ortiz got his jaw broke in the Josecito fight and he quit on the stool, no one would be like, you're a quitter. But the fact that you did it in the Maidana fight, you almost got disqualified in the Mayweather fight.
He did it in the Mayweather fight. He quit.
100 million.
Yeah, you quit mentally in the Mayweather fight. So it's an established pattern of catchweights, is why people call Pacquiao the catchweight king. Absolutely. So I'm not a fan of this fight. Chris Algieri could have a rocky moment, but I just personally don't think it does much for Pacquiao.
Here's the $100 million question, y'all. What would happen if Floyd Mayweather picked Algieri as his next opponent?
You stole my question.
I know. I stole my question. I did it on purpose, man.
You stole my question.
You think that wasn't intentional, son? I was deliberating.
Seeing it on my head. Like, let me hear him get it out real quick.
Deliberate.
What would happen, guys? Like he said.
Deliberate intent.
Well, first of all, YouTube would explode. Instagram would implode. Like, you know, it'd be all out the LA riots again. Like Reginald Denny and Rodney King and all that. Like it would be horrible. T.I. would start fighting Mayweather, all kinds of stuff.
It would be the last day of it would be the end of the world. It would be the end of the world.
Armageddon.
Oh my goodness, that is hilarious.
I feel like people didn't even give Mayweather credit fighting Maidana, who we know is tough and we know can crack.
Exactly.
And Maidana in his last fight was a champion. Everyone liked how he beat Broner's ass, and he had the belt at the time. People didn't give it. They're like, oh, it's another flat-footed, slow fighter, and they didn't give Mayweather credit for even taking that fight.
Yeah.
So if he were to fight Chris Algieri, who had his eye like about to explode, looking like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly, he would get no respect. He would get no respect, like Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh my goodness.
The pop references is off the chain.
We man, but we know what time it is. Somebody, real quick, I was watching a little bit of the press conference on my way up here, and you know, browsed through the comments. The first comment, some dude was like, you know, we don't want to watch this fight. No one wants to watch this fight. But yet this dude, he posted his message the same day the press conference came out. So he was one of the first people to watch the press conference before even I watched the conference, right? But yet he claims nobody wants to watch it. It's all propaganda, man. We know what time it is, and that's what it really comes down to. But let me say this real quick too. I ain't gonna get too much into a breakdown because we only got like 1 minute left in the show. But all I will say is there's one name that comes to mind when I think of Pacquiao versus Algieri, and that is Nadal Hussein. Nadal Hussein, a guy, he was from Australia, right, Nora? I think he was from Australia. But anyway, tall guy, rangy guy, knocked Pacquiao down with a jab and gave Pacquiao problems the entire night. So I'm just saying, keep that in mind. And I think that Manny Pacquiao, he's thinking that he's got a Johnny Gonzalez in the ring, or maybe I should say he thinks he has a real easy fight, which it would seem that way on paper. But he might turn out to be his Buster Douglas or Johnny Gonzalez or Mauricio Herrera. So anybody got some final thoughts before we close out?
Hey, not to make it all about.
No, I think Chris
not to make it all about Mayweather, but I'm just saying. You got Garcia doesn't want to rematch Herrera. Pacquiao didn't want to rematch Bradley, even though he got robbed. This guy is rematching Maidana, and still no credit. So just more to what you be saying every day.
And
The whole truth. Go ahead, AK.
Yeah, and the young, hungry, lying Canelo don't want to rematch Lara. But, to answer your question about the Pacquiao fight, I think Pacquiao picked the wrong fight to look good in. If Algieri could deal with the speed and power early, he's going to make it a tough fight for Pacquiao, and he won't look good.
Absolutely. That wraps it up, guys. I want to say thank you once again to all my guests for showing up. My co-hosts, Norin Radical,
salute,
Eagles World, a.k.a. Rap King. Go ahead and subscribe to them cats. Some of the real dudes on YouTube. Don't listen to all that other bullshit, all right? We on to the next one, so I'll see you guys next week.
The Williams brothers.
And y'all already know who they are. In the